Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to MYANMORE Live Talks. This is a series of live, authentic conversations featuring artists, writers, actors, musicians, humorists, and thought leaders, and we have an amazing one today from Myanmar. The mission of MYANMORE Live Talks is very simple and straightforward. We just want the rest of the world to get to know the most inspiring people in Myanmar. And today, we are very excited, I'm personally super excited about this, to have U Myint Zaw, currently a managing director at AYA Bank. Did I get that right? I hope I did. In Myanmar.
Yes.
But someone who is so much more than that. How are you doing tonight, man?
All fine, thanks. I'm pretty fine. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. So can you give our listeners and our viewers a little bit of your background for context?
Well, okay. Yes, that seems like a pretty easy one, but for me, it's slightly a big,
It feels like
hard thing to explain because I would say that normally I used to wear about 3 hats. One is currently as a banker. I'm working as a managing director for AYA Bank, and my professional was always on the marketeer, which I was, and I am still a marketeer, which is running all the marketing jobs. And then I'm also a teacher, and I do also write some articles as well. Yeah, so this is my 3 hats I've been juggling on myself throughout all these 5 years.
So when you look back at your career arc, which is very interesting to me, it's been very non-traditional, regardless of whether in Myanmar or in California. And what has it been like having such a diverse career over time?
I've pretty much been asking myself sort of like this kind of questions, So, and I have to judge that because I do have a good times and the bad times, and I think it seems on our age and the time for that particular in 1990s, late 1990s, we have very shortage of all these kind of new technologies. Like marketing at the time was quite new,
Sure.
Logistic was quite new. So I happened to be this guy hopping into one place to another place, but throughout my blood, I would simply say that I will be more on the marketer and the teacher as well. So yes, I started on 1996 when I was joining a McCann advertising agency in Myanmar. And then I happened to launch the Milo in Myanmar, which was last 25 years ago. And at the time, it was quite a very fun thing, as we even doesn't know how to pronounce Milo. Is it Milo or Milo or Milo? So we got a very different thing. It was a very good turning point for me, and I got a lot of fun and harsh experience. Yeah. Then I went to the agency bring me to another level of being a client service and more on the marketing side. So one of the significant things which has brought me was in 1996 when I joined Myanmar Brewery Limited, and I was being given a task because of my background from agency to develop a local brand. At the time, they put it at the name called Project X. So I said, easy, I'll do it within 3 months. But unfortunately, I spent 18 months to get it done. And until now, I was very proud because the name of the brand is called Myanmar Beer at this moment. And
what was it called?
They are still a market leader for more than decades.
Tell me again, what was it called?
It's called Myanmar Beer. It's the name of the country and the beer. Yeah. And it's still a leading brand. Yeah, so that's all brings me through. Then I went through back to Singapore for my further career development. And when I came back, I was also given another job to introduce the market with one of the F&N products called 100 Plus. And the funny thing is, when we say soft drink in Myanmar, we call it achoye. So when you translate it, it means the sweet drink. So,
got it.
And then you might notice that the 100 Plus is an isotonic drink. It doesn't give you any sweet. In fact, it also gives you a sour thing. So when we introduce to the market and say, I'm here to sell a soft drink, but in Burmese it's called achoye, then people say this is a try. So when they try it, they say, come on, guys, your soft drink is not a soft drink. So I found very difficulty on that. And thanks to one of my Malaysian colleagues, which we drive very well, and the opportunity was given because Myanmar was holding the 27th SEA Game, and that's how we have to get our things well done in the Myanmar market. So because of 100 plus, the isotonic market has been bust, and now we can see a lot of isotonics, including locals and overseas as well. Then I moved to the telecom, where Myanmar was having a very significant telecom, what do you call this, breakthrough events. I think I did mention most of the people that my first SIM card, which I happened to get it on 1996, the simple SIM card was cost $5,000.
Really?
$5,000 at the time.
Wow.
And then that's a market rate, because we didn't normally didn't get an official card. It's quite difficult to get it through. Then when I was launching on 2015, we was positioning every SIM card as 1,500 kyat, which is quite equivalent to less $1.20 at the time. So it was quite a breakthrough thing. I think this telecom itself have helped a GDP for a certain level of numbers.
Right.
And I got it, the GDP level, they got blue. I think it has been up to quite big level of GDP, because when the government started to open this telecom, we got about 4 licenses. And then 3 licenses was passed, Telenor, Ooredoo, and of course MPT, together with the Japanese thing. So it was a huge difference. Just imagine, you was paying 5,000 in the last 20 years, and last 3 years you were paying about $300 per SIM, and now you only need to pay $1 less, 0.2 only. So there was a huge breakout, and it was straight away today. That's because of the consequence. Also, you can simply see that the Facebook account has been done from, at the time it was about 11 million. Now it's been 30.5 million already. That's
So
for Myanmar users.
Can I ask you a quick question? You go from $5,000 for a SIM card, which is very expensive, where nobody in the world could afford this, right? Obviously, hard for people in Myanmar anywhere to afford. And you go all the way down to $1, which is a massive change. Is there what's the right word? Is there a societal change that takes place when communications can become more seamless, because then people can have a cell phone? And is there a difference between having a regular cell phone and then a smartphone as well in Myanmar? Can you talk a little bit about that and your experience with that?
Yes, definitely. Thanks for raising up this, Michael. Because what happened was, when we was planning to sell it out the SIM card with $1.2 thing, then we was thinking that, okay, let's go and see the market, nearest market, like Indian market, Vietnam market, and the Thailand market as well. Then we say, okay, let's talk about the possibility. The ratio will be, the feature phone will be about, feature phone means all the phones with the buttons, all these buttons, we call it the feature phones, will be about 40%, and the smartphone will be about 60%. So this is how we have projected and targeted to kick off when we was government opened the whole telecom. But it turned out opposite, that in today, more than 82% of the phones are smartphones.
Really?
And very few feature phones we have now. So automatically, Myanmar people has got a privilege, although we are late, to jump to skip one generation and jump straight to this smartphone generation straight away. And for that consequence, now you can see that social media has been a huge impact to the society of Myanmar as well.
And how is that? In other words, so this term, we call it leapfrogging, right? In other words, you just go from having no technology to then going right to the front of the line, right? In other words, the prediction was you'd have this 60-40 split, but it's really like 82-18 or 80-20. And
nowadays,
the impact
So you can see a huge divergence change, and not only on the market as well, on the people conceptual mind also.
Okay.
So the funniest part, which I was shocked, last year when there was one of the research agency locally has done some research on, based on how many times does the Myanmar people touch the phone on daily basis.
Oh, tell me.
Can you, how much you think?
You want me to guess, yeah? You want me to guess?
Yes.
I'm going to say, I'm just going to pick a random number. I don't know, like 100 times.
Yeah. Average people touch 149 times every day.
Oh my God.
And among them, 70% is without anything ringing or responding on the phone, which means by accident, people used to see the phone, flip the phone, even though there's no signals to get you to ring it up. So that's a big, huge difference. Okay, and since Facebook has been a huge, they call it early, the entrance opportunity. So nowadays, Facebook have a huge opportunity for Myanmar people. So
Right.
you can see 30.5 million is particularly on Facebook. We have very few in Instagram. Twitter, I think we can even count, and we have some in Viber as well. But the most thing is Facebook. So to answer your question, what happened to Myanmar because of this leapfrog, then you can simply see that people doesn't use Facebook as a social media.
What do they use it
Today,
as?
yeah, they're using for everything, from the government to all the level. They are using everything as a communication device. Meaning, in Facebook, you can go down and see that some of the shops are selling their products.
That's
And
what
they
I want
simply
to.
just display it and say, this is my product I'm selling. And if anybody comes within this first 10 call, I'm going to give this much discount. And even government have to pay attention on what is happening on the Facebooks. Now, because to get a more engagement and more. So for me, anything happen on emergency or fire occur, the first thing I used to tap is Facebook. Somebody might take a photo and say, here's the thing where the fire is occurring. So Facebook becomes quite cool, used to it. It doesn't even stay as a social media. It's still on the marketing device, communication device, even the business device as well nowadays.
So
So I think Myanmar people has missed out the block system and
right.
straight away jump up to that kind of thing.
Right. So that's what I was going to ask you. In Thailand, about 5 or 6 years ago, we had this concept of what we called F commerce, Facebook commerce, where people would literally, as you said, they wouldn't set up their own web pages or their e-commerce sites. They just set it up on Facebook. Is the same thing happening in Myanmar?
Definitely. I think we can be even slightly worse. So we will do everything with the emotional thing. Myanmar people are basically a bit of emotional. So they will also use the emotional thing. So I used to call, when government was encouraging the e-commerce, I said, forget about e-commerce for the time being. Let's go for S-commerce. And S stands for social media. Because people do engage more on social media than the
Right.
e-commerce thing. So I think your F-commerce will be the same, similarly things with us.
Same thing. Same thing.
Yeah.
So how about other platforms? I'm really curious about this. And let me just run through this a bit. WhatsApp, Line, Viber, all these sort of social communication platforms. What is the most popular one in Myanmar? And why do you think that particular one is the most popular as opposed to anything else?
Okay, the by far the first and almost will be this Facebook, and I think slightly we can say followed by Viber. Okay,
Viber.
we don't have much online. Line is mostly I think dominated by the Indonesian and the Thailand market.
And Thai for sure.
We might have some WhatsApp and Instagram with very limited things. This is how we was running, and why Facebook is something like Myanmar people.
What does that mean though?
Because Myanmar people normally is very shy people. Okay.
Shy.
So getting up to stage, talking what they want to selling what they want is a bit of heritage, reluctant to them. It's a barrier for them to go out and shout and talk whatever they want. But I think
Right.
that things has been changed. So what they can do is they can use a Facebook and tell whatever they want. They can cry, they can laugh, they can scold, they can cuss you, and because face to face is very difficult thing. And
Sure.
somehow you still have a comments, and Myanmar people like I told you that Myanmar people are very emotional people.
Yeah.
We love to take care of each other. We want to not only us, we want to take care of others also. That's why we happen to be the most generous person on donating things. So sometimes if you need also, you can even shout in the Facebook. Sometimes emotional thing, if you are not being happy on this, you can just shout it. But if you ask them to go outside and do the face-to-face thing, it's a very rare thing to do it. So Facebook is something fill up which Myanmar people require. So you can see the comments there, you can see likes and dislikes, no? So it's like pretty much emotional and psychology-wise thing.
But it's an interesting dichotomy, right? In other words, this combination of shyness and emotional almost seems like opposite ends of the spectrum. And it
Yes.
sounds like you're saying that like online, people feel more comfortable expressing themselves, but offline, they're shy.
Definitely. Yes,
Really?
that's the main point. Yeah. So this is Myanmar. That's the way I have to say that. Go whenever you go and see the people attending, representing Myanmar, attending class or attending conference or even attending a delegation meetings, you will find out Myanmar people mostly won't raise up too much.
Got it.
Even though if they need to ask something, they will ask in a polite way and good way, rather than throwing some questions. And that's simply also because of our background, I think. Why? Because Myanmar people, mostly 90% is we are the religion peoples, the Buddhists, okay?
Right.
And
Right.
in Buddhist, we have to respect five, which is the God, the mom, okay, and the Dhamma, which is the lesson, and the parents and the teachers as well. So all
I
are in the same level. So for us is, I don't know about the young generation Y and Z, but for us like Generation X, we sort of like, what if I talk something in front of everybody to my teacher and she or he might not have answer? Will that
Right.
be, irritating for her? So that's kind of mentality has throughout to us, which I mean that's a weak area for us also to explore. But that allows in Facebook to do whatever you want there. So that will happen to be a big, huge opportunity.
So we talked earlier about you having this really non-traditional career arc, right? And starting with marketing, but doing beer, but also doing soft drinks, and some of the soft drinks which weren't actually soft drinks because they weren't sweet, and the marketing angle. How does that all come together for you actually when you're now at a bank, and also in the combination with Facebook? Like, I want to see all those things come together. What's your view on that?
Okay. In order to answer your question, Michael, I have to still continue my end stops,
Go, go, go.
because because after I left the soft drink, then I was
Hmm.
thinking that I will be running my own training schools. And the reason why I saw the passion is what happened was when I came back from Singapore back for a task of recruiting people for the soft drink, and with the
Right.
benchmark of Singapore benchmark, I found very difficulties, especially to hire the newcomers. I call it young generation management team.
Okay.
Then I didn't manage to find anything, although I will keep on putting an announcement in all the newspapers and the public. Then I said, what if I go and visit the business schools and saying that, okay, here's it. I will tell something about marketing and some of my experience, and I want to see anybody of your student are interested to be in my, be a part of my soft drink.
Okay.
And surprisingly, when I have sent the emails to most of the school in Myanmar, almost every school accept me to through some dialogues for the experience. Then I was going there and I was sharing about that. But my initial thought was to tell about 15 to 20 minutes of the marketing experience, and another 20 minutes about how good the soft drink business is, so that they will come in. But I end up like 1 hour or 1 hour half, one and a half hour, uh, talking mostly about the question and answers and the reality of what is happening in the market. Then one day I realized that I was standing in front of these students, and it has been about 1.5 hours, 90 minutes, and I didn't go tired. And in fact, I was so happy, and all my energies was, throwing and flowing off. Then I said, hey, what is happening on my, but if I have to put the same situation, put it in my meeting, if you spend me about 1.5 hours, I really got irritated already. I will start saying that, when are you guys going to finish the decision?
Right.
Then I said, okay, this might be a hobby. And that's how I started my teaching career. Then I went to Telecom. And after Telecom, I said, okay, let me go back to the education business. So I went down to education business, bought a
Right.
school named Vice College. Yeah. And as well as I was also a coach for corporate for 7 Habits of Highly Effective People,
Ah,
the
okay.
Stephen Covey one. Yeah. And I was a senior coach for the corporate level.
Wow.
Then I was also bringing some of the British education as well. Then, for in Myanmar, the teaching doesn't survive much. So I have to add up with my experience, which is my consultancy business, which goes very well. The consultant
Sure.
business was
Sure.
going very well. Then it so happened that one of the bank happened to say that, can you restructure my, the marketing and retail? And that's how I become a MD after 2 years.
It's just
So, but I'm
incredible.
still continuing. Yeah, I'm still writing. I have read about 3 books, mostly on the marketing and small articles. Yeah, and
Right.
I'm also doing some motivation talk along. So, yeah, this is who I am. So, and now you
Can,
can, if you don't
can,
mind, you can ask for the question again.
yeah, I want to back up and ask you where you were educated, because there's a follow-on question to that that's about
Okay.
education. But you tell me.
Yeah. Okay. The thing is, eventually, I got a degree from Myanmar, both from my bachelor degree and master degree. I am still in, I have stopped my PhD, but I think I will further study after when I have a lighter job in near future. Yeah, but the thing was, I was being abroad since I was young because following my father's duty. Yeah. So what will happen is since 1974 to 1978, I was abroad. And I came back, with my father. Then in '80s, I remember I came, then come back. Then mostly I was working with the Singapore communities. So I was working with Singapore communities since 1996 until 2013.
Oh, okay. But so do you feel like that's representative of your generation, or do you feel like that's outside of like a normal experience for somebody your age?
It's hard to say, because for me, telling a bit of myself is, I think I have almost drawn myself my own journey. And it is not because of that I'm too good. It's because I don't have a chance to, and I don't have a privilege. You see, what happened was when I was young, my parents got divorced, so I have to find my own way. And finding my own way there's only two things to do. Either you want to be part of people or you want to be top of people. Okay. So if you want to be a top of people, you must be more harsh yourself. You must be more hard yourself, and you must not rest when else the rest are resting. So that's how I make myself to my journey. So this is how I do it all the way around. Yeah.
Got it. And you seem to have this passion for teaching. And that's why I want to ask you about where you were educated, and also this passion for ensuring that other people can be educated. Can you talk about where that comes from?
Okay. The thing is, the education thing is something I got it when I was very young with my father. Okay. It all doesn't start with the education thing. What happened was my father was the government staff, and he was also a writer, and he was also a master. He got a master degree on philosophy. So you can simply see he had three group of different friends. One friend is all the government, associated friends. Yeah. One friend is all the military associated friends, and the next one is all the writers, authors. So
it's a good mix.
So yeah. So what I used to do is I love to listen what people is talking. Not that I'm not that talkative like now when I was young. Whenever I sit in that kind of three different groups, what I found is when you sit inside the government stuff, the moment when they saw some kids are coming alive, and sitting there, they start to change the subject with putting more terminology words, so that it's just like a signal that you guys, let's kick the kid out. So I have to be kicked out. Same thing comes to the military. But when my father happened to talk to his friends with all the authors, the writers, they not even welcome me. They even involve me in these things, So sometimes they will just let me to sit and say, "How do you think?" Then from that on, since I was very young, I said, I want to be somebody like them, which you can accept any young, regardless of age or color or, the faces. So that's how, then I say, how can I influence people by talking them, because when they talk really with all the energies, emotional things, So from then on, I start to learn about talking. And then what I found is our education in Myanmar. Mostly Myanmar education is by heart education. What do you mean by heart is they will give you about 10 books. You read all the 10 books. The question will come within the 10 books. Those who are very bright is if you can read all the 10 books by heart, you will be the excellent outstanding student. For me, I don't think of that way. In Myanmar, we call it education is called Tinya. But for me, what I believe is what we have been taught is called Muang Tinya, which means I will teach you and you better understand all this book. Instead, what I want to do is I want them to explore their idea, thinking outside the box, and throwing questions, working as a team, doing projects, so that they have more than what the book says. Yeah. And then when I went into the education, what I found is people, whenever you give them a question or whenever you give them a task to do it, they will firstly manage to finish everything in time. But then you can easily see is one is copying another copy. So then I found that the paper which I've given, they have completed from their side. But for me, I have nothing inside to take it over. Now, so from then on, I said, let's try on myself of let them think through the process, thought process, come up with dare to speak their own ideas, dare to throw their own thoughts and make something which they own. Yeah, it's like a very simple thing. When we say creative, actually creative is very basic. Creative comes from copying somebody's. Okay, you copy somebody's thing and make it even yours and twist a bit, which meets your market and demand, and that's the thing. If we are saying the smartphone is very easy, right? If we say then if you go and declare in the whole mobile world and say who started the smartphone, nobody will say nothing. But then they will also shout that we all start the smartphone. But come on, somebody have to start and somebody have to copy it, right? So
Right.
so this is something like creative also is the same thing, which I think there's a dot on that. So yeah.
I want to talk about this idea, if you don't mind, a little bit deeper. This idea of like of rote education versus teaching people not just to know facts, but teaching them how to learn about what those facts mean. Can you
Yes.
comment on that a little bit, please?
Yes. Okay. So mostly what I used to do is I don't normally teach the young teenagers because the reason is I love the young teenagers, but I only teach the postgrad the most because the
Right.
reason is uh, I want them to think. They have to think, sort of thing. Uh, so the challenge thing for me was whenever I throw them a question, they have an answer by the book.
Right.
So
Right.
then I found out that, okay, let's say I said, okay, what in this case, what is happening? Oh, the case of Africa in Coca-Cola in Africa happened like this in 19 how much? I said, no. Can you bring up something in Myanmar? What is happening now? No?
Right.
So yeah, so then I saw a lack of two ways. One is the lack of experience from the teachers, which also
Okay.
doesn't know how to share the market experience. And the
Okay.
next thing is lack of the student does not know how to pick up the things on that. So my teaching always go that I will only share the philosophy for the theory for about 10 minutes. Then I will also ask their exercise on what they think for 30 minutes. And I also threw a question that what will you do if you were there in this kind of thing?
Right.
So people used to say that I mainly will base on the reality, what is happening in the ground market. So by that, I think I can happily say nowadays I have seen some of my staff has become a head of marketing in some of the organization. Some has already run their own company, like the managing directors, and some have even running the what do you call the food change also, where they dare to start the thing. The only thing which I have shared is I didn't teach them much. I just want to make them to do a thought process. That's it.
Right. I mean, that was the next question I was going to ask you is, do you try to move that same process into your business life as well? In other words, for people that haven't gone through a non-rote education, when they get into the bank or the beer company or wherever you seem to be working, do you try to let them or encourage them to think outside the box, to come up with new ways to either improve the business, improve the banking, all that kind of stuff? You know what I mean?
Yes, that's a very good question. And honestly speaking, it's also a painful journey as well. So, as I mentioned, I have been jumping the industries to industries a lot.
Right.
Then what happened is in every industry, when you start, you have to start from the ground, basic zero again.
Absolutely.
So it would take a year or year plus to understand each other first. And
Right.
second thing is to get you a trust
Yes.
and gain the respect, which I mean respect is mutual respect. Not only me, I do respect them, they respect me. It's a mutual
Right.
two-way kind of respect. Then
Yeah.
only
It's
they
not
will start understanding things. Yeah.
right.
So if you ask me throughout my whole life what I was doing, I was just doing a marketing. Regardless of if I have been telecom also, I'm doing a marketing thing. Regardless of beer, I'm also doing a marketing thing. Bank also the same thing. And what is marketing to me? Marketing is a communication, which is a clear communication I'm throwing them to
Right.
understand and to pursue and to get their wants and needs by the help of my what I call the channels. That's a
Got it.
simple thing. Yeah.
Okay. So the last thing I'm going to ask you before I let you go, and this has been an incredible conversation, just so you know, is just from a very high level, what do you think is going to change the game in Myanmar? Do you know what I mean? Of all the things we've talked about, all the things that you've learned, all of the passions you have about teaching people and encouraging them to think outside the box, what do you think is going to change the game?
Okay. The first thing is I think that the clear directions and the clear roadmap. Okay,
Right.
that's a broad thing. In detail, I think we have to start benchmarking on three things. First thing is the digitalization. Myanmar people have to start to know on the very right direction of digitalization, which
Yeah, for sure.
the whole global is shifting to.
It
Second
is.
thing is Myanmar people have to know, and we need to learn about the financial. Not that
Okay.
I'm in bank.
I
Yeah, the
understand.
thing is, I have seen people has been taking unnecessary risks and uncalculated risks,
Right.
you know, which will be a more harsh, especially after this pandemic period, because the
Right. Right.
accommodations, it's like you have drawn a line for the risk. So when you let every horse go, you have to be very much precise on and clear on what you're doing. Otherwise, you will not
Agreed.
reach the end game. And third thing is about the communication, clear communication. So this is the three things which might change the Myanmar people way of thinking. And I wish I can share them to talk more, tell more in a more positive way, rather than putting the emotional in front and
Right.
thinking the strategy behind. So this is something like I really want people to do it on this kind of thing, and I'm also trying to help it on this kind of way.
Yeah. So again, before I let you go, I would love to have a completely different conversation with you about financial inclusion, about financial education, and about how to get people to understand risk management in the finance world. Because I do think that saving, investing, and financial management helps drive societal growth. And I'd love to continue this conversation maybe in another episode of this show and just spend some time talking about that, because in your current role, particularly at the bank, and again, it has nothing to do with the fact that you're there, but you can see some of it. I'd love to have a conversation with how all of the new technologies, whether it's fintech or insurtech or blockchain or distributed ledger technology, can be more financially included. I'd love to do that. But I want to thank you again today, U Myint Zaw, for coming in and doing this, because today was awesome. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Michael, and me as well. And of course, the financial is one of my interesting part. And
Yeah,
especially, I can give you a hint so that you can collect all your
go,
thought through process when you meet me again.
go.
We don't have during our education time,
Please.
we do have this, we do have a metric education system, which is about
Right,
under 10 standard. Throughout from the KG to 10 standard, we don't have nothing. We didn't share anything about banking.
right.
We didn't
Why?
share anything about financial. Where
Right.
else? And when you look into our neighborhood country like Thailand, from year 3, they start to know what is the costs and what is the interest rate.
Fair enough.
So yeah, then you can explore it. So this is one thing which is a huge miss out, and there was a huge reluctance of people dealing with banks or financial institutions, or they're also
Right,
reluctant of because they don't have a basic knowledge, you know. And even
right.
in universities, only if you finish on the certain university like economics or other, the rest doesn't think about what is the function of banking and how do you
Yeah.
want to get a benefit or when you get a good things back from the bank. Nobody has thought through that.
Promise me you'll come back and talk about this with me, because I'd love to have
So
this
let's
conversation.
get it to one next time. Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. Thank you again so
Okay.
much.
Thanks, Michael, so much. And Andres also for helping us such a good evening. And thanks to all the audience also. I hope we got something. And please feel
Exactly.
free to contact me also as well. Thank you so
And me as
much.
well. Thank you.
Bye.